Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. This time we're digging into the financials of Barclays Bank.
Really interesting time for them, too.
Yeah, a global powerhouse facing a whole bunch of challenges and opportunities this quarter. We've got earnings announcements, of course,
Yeah, those are key.
CEO pay analogies, market reactions to unpack, and then there's that surprise tech outage and a legal battle brewing. So a lot on our plate today.
A lot going on with them, for sure. Barclays' story really reflects some of the larger forces at play in global finance right now, I think. We're seeing a lot of banks trying to balance strong profits
Yeah,
with increasing scrutiny, adapting to new technologies, and of course, dealing with the unexpected.
absolutely. So why don't we jump right in with that profit surge? A hefty £1 billion profit for Q4 2024.
A billion. Wow.
Exceeding analyst expectations.
Big time.
And it's a dramatic turnaround from the same period last year when they actually posted a loss. So what drove this success?
Well, their investment banking division really capitalized on market volatility, especially in the U.S. pre-election period.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, equities trading income soared, up 40% to £604 million.
Huge.
And fixed income trading wasn't far behind. It jumped 29% to $934 million.
So volatility can actually be a good thing.
Oh, absolutely, if you're in the right position to leverage it. And it seems like Barclays was.
They were. Now, their UK retail banking arm also saw some pretty impressive growth too, right?
Right. Consistent interest rates created a good environment, boosting income on that side of the business as well. So yeah, I think it was really a combination of strong performance across different divisions. That's what really propelled their profits.
It all adds up. But amidst this financial success, there's also, as we mentioned, this controversy around CEO CS Venkatakrishnan pay.
Oh, right.
It more than doubled to £10.5 million.
Yeah, there have been a lot of strong opinions on that one.
Got to raise some eyebrows.
Absolutely. Sparked a debate about executive compensation in general, really, and especially because Barclays proposing a new pay policy.
A new one.
Yeah, it could see his potential earnings rise even further to £14.3 million.
Wow. Now, this new policy, it requires shareholder approval, right?
Right.
I'm really curious to see how they'll react. I mean, will they prioritize the bank's success, or will concerns about excessive pay, take center stage?
Yeah, that's the big question. How much weight are they going to give each of those?
Tough decisions. Tough decisions. Now, let's shift gears a bit to a legal challenge that's looming over Barclays. A recent ruling expanded an investigation into secret commissions, basically,
I read about this.
paid to car dealers for arranging loans. And these commissions weren't transparent to the borrowers.
Not good.
Not good at all. So this practice has been deemed unlawful. And Barclays, even though they exited the motor finance market in 2019,
A while ago.
yeah, they've still had to set aside £90 million to cover potential costs.
Wow. So even though they're out of that market, the past is still coming back to bite them.
It is, and analysts are predicting they could face up to £442 million
Oof.
in compensation claims.
Yeah, that's not just a Barclays issue, though, is it?
No, you're right. Other UK banks are dealing with the fallout from this as well.
Yeah, this whole thing has the potential to snowball into a major scandal.
You think so?
Yeah, maybe even rivaling the PPI mis-selling crisis. We'll see.
Yeah, so a lot of uncertainty there. And potentially a hefty price tag
For sure.
for the whole industry.
Potentially, yeah.
Then, as if that wasn't enough,
What else?
to add to their challenges, Barclays also experienced a major technology outage.
Oh, right. That was a mess.
It disrupted their digital services for 2 whole days.
Can you imagine?
Outages like that, they can really erode customer trust,
Absolutely.
damage a bank's reputation, especially in today's world.
Especially today, yeah. It just shows how important operational resilience is these days. It's mission critical.
For sure. Now, their CEO did publicly apologize
Good.
and pledged compensation for those affected. But is that going to be enough? Will it be enough to fully restore confidence?
Well, it's a step in the right direction. It's a good first step. But, it's just the beginning. They really need to show they're committed to preventing this kind of thing from happening again.
Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly.
So we've got record profits, CEO pay controversy, a potential legal storm brewing, and this major technology outage.
Quite a mix.
It's a huge bag for Barclays. How did all this affect how the market views them?
Well, despite the profit surge, Barclays shares actually dipped. Almost 5% right after all these announcements.
Really?
Yeah, I think it shows investors are looking past the headlines.
Makes sense.
They're weighing the potential costs of that motor finance scandal and the impact of the outage.
The long-term impact.
Yeah, they're thinking long term.
Yeah, makes sense. They're looking at the bigger picture. But Barclays has laid out some ambitious goals for the future, haven't they?
They have, aiming for a return on tangible equity exceeding 12% by 2026.
Ambitious.
Ambitious. But to get there, they'll need to execute their restructuring plans and stay laser focused on cost reduction.
A lot riding on that, so a lot at stake for Barclays moving forward. What about HSBC leaving the European investment banking scene?
Oh, right.
How do you think that will impact them? Could it be an opportunity?
It definitely could be. I mean, as HSBC scales back, it creates a void.
A vacuum?
Yeah. Barclays is well positioned to fill it. I mean, they have a really strong track record in investment banking. They could attract clients who are looking for a new home.
So a chance to gain market share. But first, they got to navigate those legal and reputational challenges.
Exactly. It's not going to be easy.
This is shaping up to be a fascinating deep dive already. What stands out to you so far?
I think the contrast, this incredible financial performance, yet underneath there are some really serious challenges brewing. It really highlights how complex the financial world is, how even success can be fragile.
Great point. It's not just about the numbers. It's about managing risk, maintaining trust, and adapting to a constantly evolving landscape.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, it's really a story we're seeing play out across the whole banking industry, this balancing act between pursuing profits,
Yeah,
but also keeping things responsible, lending practices. And then on top of that, they have to adapt to all this new
yeah.
technology and deal with more and more public scrutiny.
It's a lot. It's like they're walking a tightrope. But let's get back to Barclays' recent performance for a second. We talked about that investment banking success, but their UK retail arm also got a boost, right, from those interest rates.
Yeah, for sure. Higher interest rates mean banks make better margins on their loans.
So a win-win, at least for Barclays this quarter.
It seems like it, yeah. I mean, they had the expertise to leverage the market ups and downs, and then their retail banking benefited from the, what do you call it, macro situation.
Macro environment, yeah.
Right, exactly.
But you can't just sweep that motor finance scandal under the rug. Even after they left the market, it's still haunting them.
It's a good reminder that you can't just run away from your past, I guess.
Definitely not. And it's not just Barclays, is it?
No, no, this whole thing is causing ripples across the entire UK banking sector.
How so?
Well, regulators are taking a closer look at how everyone's doing their lending.
Makes sense.
And banks are scrambling to double check their compliance. Are we doing this right? Could we be in trouble too?
So a lot of looking over shoulders going on. What's Barclays doing to address it specifically, though? I mean, 90 million is a lot, but what other steps are they taking?
Well, for one, they're cooperating with the investigation.
Good.
And they're going back and reviewing all those old loans.
Oh, wow.
Trying to figure out just how much they might end up owing.
That sounds like a pretty big job.
Oh, it's going to be complex. And it's going to take time, for sure.
And could be costly, as we said. But got to be done to resolve the issue.
Right. Hopefully rebuild some of that public trust.
Speaking of trust, that technology outage, what's being done so it doesn't happen again?
It sounds like they're overhauling everything, really looking at their systems and processes. They're beefing up their IT infrastructure and enhancing cybersecurity, the whole nine yards.
Sounds serious.
It is. I think that they realize just how crucial that operational resilience is now in this digital world.
It's everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
But, okay, on a brighter note, remember how HSBC is leaving the European investment banking scene?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Could that be a chance for Barclays to grow?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. HSBC goes away.
Yeah.
There's a gap.
A hole to fill.
Right. And Barclays is perfectly positioned to step right in. They've got the experience, the track record. They could grab all those clients looking for a new home.
So one bank's loss is another bank's gain?
Classic.
Reminds us just how competitive this world is.
For sure. It's constant jockeying for a position.
The ones who can adapt, they win.
It's all about being nimble and seizing those opportunities.
So looking ahead then, what should investors be paying attention to with Barclays?
Well, first and foremost, they got to keep a close eye on how this motor finance thing shakes out.
Right.
I mean, that's going to be huge.
The cost of the scandal.
Yeah, how much they end up having to pay out, and of course, how it affects their reputation long term.
So that's top of mind. What else?
Well, can they pull off those restructuring plans? Can they hit those profit goals they set?
High bar.
Yeah, investors want to see results. They want to see those promises turn into actual, money.
Talk is cheap, basically.
Actions matter.
Exactly. And then, of course, can they capitalize on HSBC leaving? Can they snag those clients and boost their market share?
A lot of ifs.
A lot of ifs. So Barclays has got a pretty full plate then. Challenges and opportunities. What do you think will be the most impactful thing for them moving forward?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to have to go with how they handle this motor finance scandal. It could make or break them, really.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a real test of their leadership.
and their commitment to earning back public trust.
Exactly.
And then there's the execution. Can they actually make those restructuring plans happen? Can they hit those profit targets? If they can, it'll show they can adapt and thrive even in a tough environment.
It's a two-pronged approach then. Manage the crisis and show that long-term vision.
Exactly.
And, of course, got to stay on top of technology and innovation.
Oh, yeah, the financial world never stands still. The banks that succeed are the ones who anticipate the changes and adapt.
It's a lot to juggle. Before we wrap up this part of our deep dives, I'm curious, what's the most interesting part of Barclays' situation to you? What really gets you thinking? Yeah, for me, it's how this whole Barclays situation shows just how much banks have to balance these days. Profitability, responsibility, and then staying ahead of the curve. It's like a snapshot of what the whole financial industry is going through.
I think that's a really good point. It shows how interconnected everything is. What happens to one of the big guys like Barclays, it affects the whole system.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Barclays today, what are your big takeaways for our listeners? What should they be watching as this story unfolds?
Well, I think the big thing is adaptability and resilience. Banks have got to be able to navigate all this economic uncertainty and the regulatory changes. And of course, all the technological disruptions we talked about.
So agility is key. Get to be nimble.
Exactly. But it's not just about being quick. They also have to build trust with customers and be transparent. That motor finance scandal is a perfect example of how ethical problems can have a huge impact. And once that trust is broken, it takes a long time to get it back.
It's essential, that trust. So adaptability, trust, what else?
Well, the competition is really heating up, too. Everyone's fighting for market share. The banks that are going to win are the ones who can innovate, offer something different, and give customers real value. Barclays has to figure out how to stand out from the crowd.
So they got to be adaptable, trustworthy, and competitive. That's a tall order.
It is, but that's the reality of the banking world today.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Barclays. We've covered a lot of ground today, from record profits to legal battles, that tech outage, and their plans for growth. Barclays is definitely at a crossroads, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens next.
It's a fascinating story, and like we said, what happens with Barclays affects everyone.
That's right, so keep an eye on them. Things are changing fast in the financial world, and there's sure to be more twists and turns ahead. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, remember, in finance, the only constant is change.
Well said, and thanks for having me. EOCAEH.